What's in this thing?
Today we have the Gainward GTX 590. Released in early 2011 at a price point of around £600 or $700 to $800, the GTX 590 combined two GF110 graphics processing chips onto the same PCB. Each chip manages 1.5 gig of GDDR5 for a total of 3 gig. As always, let's start by removing the screws from the bottom of the card, followed by the screws on either side of the card, and then the screws in the PCIe slot cover. With those out, we can remove the two covers on the back of the card, and then separate the heatsink and shroud from the PCB. Let's start cleaning the card. First the old thermal compound on the top of the chips, then the thermal pad residue, and then the compound from the other components. Now we can start on the back of the card, removing and cleaning the thermal pad residue from the memory chips. Now that the PCB is clean, we can move on to the heatsink and shroud. Let's get the plastic shroud off and have a better look. Cooler uses two separate heatsinks with a central fan exhausting out of the PCIe slot. With the two heatsinks removed, we are left with just a fan on the aluminium frame. Let's get the fan removed so we can give the frame a clean and remove the old thermal pads and compound. Now that's clean, let's look at the plastic shroud. There is a 2-pin connector on the inside to power the LEDs inside the GeForce logo. After cleaning the shroud, let's move on to the two heatsinks. The old thermal compound has dried out completely, so let's clean that off ready for reassembly. Next, we have the two covers from the back of the card. Let's get the old thermal pads removed and give it a clean. Finally, the fan. This card uses a Forcecon A910. Let's give it a clean. Now with everything cleaned, we can start to reassemble. First, we need new thermal pads on the memory chips, and then the thermal compound on the smaller components. Next, the two GF110 chips get a new layer of thermal compound. We can start to reassemble the shroud. First the fan, followed by both of the heatsinks, and now that can be placed back onto the PCB. It's a bit tricky to get the plastic cover back on, but once it all lines up, the plastic clips will hold it in place so we can get the screws back in. Finally, we can apply new thermal pads to the memory chips on the back of the card. Now the covers over them and screw everything back into place. With all that done, now the card is cleaned and ready to go.